Assalamualaikum to everyone and Madam Maurati. We are from Group 5 and today we will present our research on inflation in China over the past 3 years. Before we dive into the topic, let us introduce ourselves first. My name is Nur Anissa Husna binti Ahmad Zaidi.
My name is Nadira binti Zalmi Anwar.
My name is Nur Anis Farisha binti Muhammad Kamal.
My name is Amira Muslimah binti Ahmad Azam.
I'm Sabrina Natasha binti Yahya.
So, let's get started. China, the world's second largest economy, has faced significant challenges recently, including the COVID-19 pandemic, geopolitical tensions, and supply chain disruptions. These issues have caused fluctuations in inflation affecting both domestic and global markets. Now, let's look at China's inflation trends. In 2021, inflation was 0.98% thanks to price regulations and stable consumer demand. In 2022, it rose to 1.97% due to supply chain issues and higher commodity prices. By 2023, inflation dropped sharply to 0.25% due to weak domestic demand and economic struggles. In 2024, the focus shifted to economic stability addressing low consumer demand. That's all from me. I will now pass it to the next presenter.
The first key factor that contributed to inflation of China is supply side recovery during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. Its lagging domestic demand was brought to light by the countries, while the government prioritized industrial recovery and enabling factories, also export sectors to resume operations swiftly. Domestic consumption remained subdued due to weakened consumer confidence and job losses in service sectors. The related issues for this factor is overcapacity in industry like steel and electronics, which is great deflationary pressure and surplus goods drove down price. Additionally, the reliance on debt finances stimulus to sustain production exacerbated local government debt concerns. Meanwhile, the labor market recovery can remain uneven, with industrial jobs bouncing back faster than those in consumer-facing sectors like retail and tourism. The Chinese heavy reliance on global export market also left its economy vulnerable to external shocks, such as declining demand in major economies like the US and EU. To address these challenges, the government has implemented measures to stimulate domestic demand, reduce overcapacity, and transition towards a consumption-driven growth by model, but structural reform remain critical for long-term balance and sustainability. Another key factors on the inflation in China is energy crisis in 2021 that was driven by coal shortage, surging energy demand, and policy constraints. Because 90% of China's energy came from coal, where the supply shortage were caused by disruptions in coal production that brought on by tighter safety and environmental standards, as well as limits on importing coal from Australia. So the related issue for this factor is met was by increased industrial energy consumption and several weather that interfered with mining. Furthermore, several power rationing resulted from government imposed or price limitations on electricity that made it unprofitable for power providers to operate. Then, global supply chains can experience delay as a result, and industry's output was interrupted, especially in energy-intensive industry like steel and chemicals. And the China's product price index also rose sharply as a result of the crisis and reaching its highest level in decades in October 2021 at 13.5%. So that the social and economic impact was emphasized by residential power disruptions and higher expenses for small companies. And for the government, was responded by releasing strategic reserve and increasing coal production. So the crisis brought to light China's coal dependency and the difficulties in finding a balance between environmental objective, economic stability, and energy security. That's all from me.
So now let's take a closer look at low inflation in China, the key factors driving it and its impact on the economy. First, let's talk about weak domestic demand. A significant contributor to this is the property market slowdown. In China, the property market has traditionally been a major driver of wealth and economic activity. However, as the market slows, household wealth has decreased. This is a ripple effect on consumer confidence. When people feel financially insecure, they tend to save more and spend less. This conscious spending behavior weakens demand for goods and services across the economy. Adding to this is the soft labor market. With fewer stable jobs and slower income growth, households have less disposable income. This reduces their purchasing power, making it more even harder for them to spend on non-essential items. These combined factors contribute to low consumer confidence and a noticeable drop in spending, which is essential for a healthy economy. Second, China is facing a liquidity trap risk. Even though the government has been easing monetary policies, lowering interest rates, and increasing the money supply, this hasn't had the desired effect. Why? Because both consumer and businesses are reluctant to borrow or invest. People are prioritizing saving over spending due to economic uncertainly, and businesses has hesitant to expand in such an environment. This leads to weak credit demand, even with cheap borrowing costs. The result, the extra money in the system isn't stimulating economic growth or boosting consumption. Consumer spending and weak credit demand have contributed to low inflation and sluggish economic growth. Typically, governments rely on monetary policy tools such as adjusting interest rates. Finally, the property market slowdown adds a deeper structural challenge. It's not just about weak demand, it's also about how people view their long-term financial security. When households feel their biggest asset, property, is losing value, they become even more. This feedback into the cycle of reduced spending and low economic activity.
Now, let's look at several policies that China used to manage inflation. First one is interest rate adjustments. The central bank adjusted rates to curb inflation or stimulate growth. Second one is money supply adjustments. Changes to reserve requirements influence lending and spending. Third one is food and energy measures. Strategies included reducing key commodities and promoting energy-saving technologies. And the last one is long-term goals. Initiatives like Made in China 2025 reduced import reliance and boosted technological production. That's all from me. I will pass it to the next presenter, Nadira.
Thank you, Nisa, for your explanation. Now, let's move on to my topic, which is fiscal policy. To begin with, fiscal policy is a key tool that governments use to influence their economies. It involves managing government spending and tax to either stimulate economic activity or slow down when necessary. Today, I will briefly explain its purpose and how China has effectively used it. Let's start by looking at the purpose of fiscal policy. Broadly speaking, there are two main goals, which is first, stimulating economic activities, such as during recession, governments can increase spending or cut tax to boost demand, create jobs, and support businesses. Secondly, controlling inflation, such as in times of high growth or inflation, reducing spending or raising tax helps cool the economy and stabilize prices. Next, let's consider how China has utilized fiscal policy effectively. For instance, during the 2008 global financial crisis and more recently during the COVID-19 pandemic, China introduced stimulus package. In doing so, the government was able to support economic recovery and maintain stability during challenging times. Now, what we can learn from China's approach is there are two important lessons. Firstly, fiscal policy must be flexible to adapt to changing economic conditions. Secondly, it should be combined with structural reform and inflation control to ensure long-term stability. This point highlights the strategic importance of fiscal policy when used wisely. Now, I will pass to the next presenter, Sabrina.
Thank you, Nadira. Now I am going to present about the method of monetary policy in China. The first method, which is open marketing operation. Open marketing operation are the key of monetary tool where the central bank directly influence the money supply by buying or selling the government securities in the financial market. When the goal is to reduce the money supply, the central bank sells short-term bonds, government securities, or treasury bills to the public and the banking system. Next is the reserve requirement. It is the minimum percentage of the deposit that commercial banks must hold in, reserve, and not lend out, as mandated by the central bank. By increasing the reserve requirement, the central bank forces commercial banks to retain a larger portion of the deposit as reserve, reducing the amount of money available for lending. The discount rate, also known as the bank rate. It is the interest rate at which commercial banks can borrow funds from the central bank, and increase in this rate serves as a signal that central bank is adopting a contractionary monetary stance aimed at controlling inflation or excessive credit expansion. The central bank may also increase the interest rate it offers on deposit to influence commercial banks and the public. The higher interest rate incentivizes commercial banks to raise their rates on public deposits, encourage more individuals to save rather than spend. And for the direct control, which is the price control and rationing, the government regulate by the prices of essential goods by setting a floor price to ensure producers receive fair compensation, ceiling price to protect consumers from exorbitant costs. These measures are aimed at stabilizing market and ensuring the equitable access to resources. Next is anti-hoarding campaigns. Arise from reports of individuals or businesses unnecessarily stockpiling goods, creating artificial shortage. This shortage describes the natural balance of supply and demand, leading price spike and economic instability. Third is compulsory spending control. Inflation can affect by reducing the disposable income available for immediate consumption. Demand for goods and services decreases, establishing prices. Lastly, direct control in crisis situation during the coronavirus outbreak. Soaring demand for masks and other medical supplies pose significant challenge for manufacturers. The Chinese government took strict measures to manage market distribution, including ensuring product quality, crackdown on the hoarding and price gouging.
As summary, China has sustained growth and controlled inflation through fiscal policies, industrial initiatives like Made in China 2025 and renewable energy investment. However, weak demand, real estate struggle and high debt call for structural reform to ensure stability. That's all from me. Thank you.